right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP, online sales magazine, and Coavera, formerly Pipeliner CRM. Joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today, I'm delighted to be joined from what they like to say here, across the pond, Deri Llewellyn-Davies, who is in lovely Wales. How are you doing?
I'm good, my friend. We've got an Irishman, a Welshman. All we now need is an Englishman, and we've got a joke on this.
Exactly. I know. Exactly. And Wales, of course, is in the UK. You have Scotland, England, Wales, and I'm originally from Ireland, which is just across the water from where Derry is. In fact, it's the quickest way to get from where I grew up, Dundee, to Holyhead, like 3.5 hours on the ferry.
That's
late
it.
at night. Yeah. And Deri, you're a strategist advisor who's guided over 330 boards and leadership teams through complexity, helping them think clearly and act decisively under intense pressure. As we said, raised in a small Welsh village, deep rooted sense of community continues to shape your approach to leadership today. You are the creator of Strategy on a Page, a #1 best-selling methodology, help thousands of founders scale their businesses with clarity and purpose. And we're going to talk today a little bit about, peak performance is a state problem, not a motivation problem. So just explain to me what you mean by that. What's the difference between state and having a motivation issue?
So let's just go to ground roots level, because that's quite a claim, right? And if
Yeah.
note the history, this is really important. The reason I say I've been on all these boards and everything else is to show that this comes from experience. It's not like some woo we picked off the shelf somewhere. So anyone that's run a business out there, a lot of people in sales functions, whatever, who's listening to this, right? We're in a state all of the time. And most of us, it's accidental. So when I say state, I mean literally physically state. Now, the state that's been coined the most around this is flow state. That's very well documented. Now, Csikszentmihalyi documented that 50 years ago. So a state constitutes, literally different, you've got different brainwave patterns. Let's understand, first of all, the brain's got different brainwaves. And that's not woo-woo. You literally see it in the hospital. And the one you don't want to do is the flatliner one, right? That's the one you're avoiding, right? So we know that there's beta and alpha and gamma and delta. So we know that there's different brainwaves. And we know we do different things when we're in them. We also know there's a bunch of neurochemicals, right? We know different neurochemicals are firing. We've got different physiology and we've got different psychology, which is thoughts. Now, a lot of us were thinking like positive thinking, everything else, that's psychology, which is interesting. But if you don't control biology, which is the brain patterns and the neurochemicals, you're flat. So in this era where we've got high stress, high depression rates, all of this stuff, well, hang on a minute, that's a state that we've chosen, right? So I leaned in really heavily on flow state because that's what I love, and that's I think the most exciting state of all. It's the one you feel great. We may touch on that one later, but I think when I really looked hard at it, I was like, hang on a minute, flow is getting a lot of attention, and it should because it's a superpower.
Yeah.
However, only in flow about 10, 15, 20% of the time max. What about the rest of life? So it's like focus state, super important for us to be hyper focused and be able to turn that on when you need it without distraction. We've got peak state. That is like boardroom pitches, sales pitch. That's peak. There's a different thing going on there. A slight bit of gamma, which most people aren't aware of. And then you've got recovery state. That's the one most people aren't, like, you have to recover. If you're firing neurochemicals every day, you have to be able to recover from that. And I think the hardest skill set of all is to recover well these days. Final one is connect, and which is, I think, super relevant for sales, right? Which is truly connect. I think we're losing the ability to truly connect with a human being. And I mean, there is different neurochemicals firing everything. So when I say state, I really mean it's a completely different. So every single state that we've defined within ultra states, it's a completely different neurochemical pattern, brainwave pattern, for psychology, physiology, all linked to purpose, by the way. Purpose leads to shape. So it's very scientifically underpinned, and I've been fascinated by this space for like the last 10 years now, and it's just finally we've got all the sciences caught up with us. So we actually, Csikszentmihalyi coined this 50 years ago in flow, and now they've actually proved it right.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting because I think most people just think that they're on during their work day, right? They're on, and if things aren't going according to plan, what do? You work harder, you try to focus more, everything. But what you're saying here is, I mean, you're in very different states at very different times, and if you don't realize that, then obviously, how you're communicating or what you're doing is out of sync.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, I've been around long enough, right? So I'm 51 now, so I've got 5 decades of experience. We
Mhm.
never used to have such an issue because we didn't have technology. So actually,
Right.
if you go back to the 1980s and 90s where I was growing up, great times to grow up, by the way.
Oh, great
You
time.
know, now we've suddenly got these things. For those who are listening, I'm holding up my mobile phone, right?
Mhm.
Got those things which have hijacked us before we got out of bed in the morning. I spoke to 1,000 leaders recently in a forum, and like senior leaders, and I said, hands up in the room who has opened their phone and is scrolling before they've got out of bed, right?
Mm.
Our whole audience is out. And then I've said, okay, now let's just continue that part. So you're in the phone before you got out of bed. Now you've gone to the toilet. How many have
Mhm.
now tracked their phone to the toilet? Has now probably sent an email or two or sent a few text messages before you've even pissed in the morning, right?
Mhm.
Bit of fun, but not really because the whole room's that. That means neurochemically, we've hijacked ourselves before we pissed in the morning.
Mm.
That's the reality, which means you've driven high cortisol, you're in high beta, and there's your day.
Yeah.
So no chance of getting into flow state. You're not going to connect deeply with another person in the office. You just set your pattern, right? Now
Mhm.
you can. Good news is you can unset that pattern if you know how, right? But most people have no idea. They just blundle through, and then they go, "I can need another coffee." Shit. I need to now. It's Netflix and chill, which isn't
Yeah.
recovery, by the way. So that is what's happened out there, John. It's what's happened in the last 20 years. The technology distraction and the social distraction has hijacked our neurochemistry, which we know. But
Mhm.
most people go, shit, I'd like to choose the state I'm in, please. I'd like to choose to be present with my family in the evening, with my
Mm.
children in the evening.
Yeah.
How many in there, any parents listening to this, is like, how many people drag their work home, drag their cortisol and the stress and the neurochemistry home, and then try to interact on them, but then snap or have a snap at the kids. I've been there. That's why I created
Yeah.
Ultrasound. I was like, I
Yeah.
know I'm better than that.
I said, and how many of you look up from your phone to tell your kids to get off their phones?
Yeah. I there was a study there's about so when I wrote Ultra State Spot, and by the way, the book currently, any listeners, we're going to give you a link. You can fully access the book for free. So this is not a sell a book thing.
Mhm.
We'll do a publishing deal, which we're signing off. But until that point, it's available to the world, right? In the book, it's verified by about 200 white papers, right?
Mhm.
One of those white papers it was horrible, actually. As a parent, it made me want to cry. The study was that children, when surveyed, think their parents love their phones more than they love them.
Oh, wow.
Now,
Yes, yes,
about
I
that.
could see that.
You're with your child, and all the child is seeing is you doing this all the time. Now, we never grew up like that.
Yeah.
When I was with my dad, it wasn't that often because he was working and stuff. But when I was with
Mhm.
him, he was present,
Yeah.
right? Now I go out and you sit over a restaurant table and you're seeing, dad out with, and I'm a single dad, right? So I'm out with my kids half the time. I got 50% custody of my children. So I'm there when I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids, and I see other kids and they're on their phone. So what does that tell the child? The child said that tells the child that phone, that thing in front of them, that little box, is more important than they are.
Mhm.
Now what importance does the child put on the phone? And now the child is like, oh, I must use this phone thing because it's more
Yeah.
important than a human being.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what you mentioned earlier as well is like waking up and going straight onto your phone and whatever, scrolling on the news. And I always say to people, the news isn't there to inform you anymore. It doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum of politics. It's there to provoke a reaction. Same thing, maybe you're on social media and you're seeing, things and you're getting into comparison culture. But to your point, I mean, before you've probably even said hello to the person who may be lying beside you, you're already in a completely different state of mind. And that's the one interesting thing about one of the most interesting things about, what you're saying about is operating in the wrong neurological state. Yeah,
Yeah.
so throughout the day, we're operating in the wrong neurological state because we're not being conscious or intentional about what's going on.
And historically, we never had this problem.
Yeah.
This is why. And AI is just actually, and I love AI as a tool. I think
Mhm.
I mean, it's that right. However, you've got to harness that tool because it's now just amplified the problem even further, right? And now
Mm.
we outsourced our brain if we're not careful. So now you're not
Right.
running it state.
Yeah.
If you're not. that's a problem coming, right? So if you look at this, it's now the choices is, do we choose? And for a big part of what I preach within an ultra states environment is that morning. For most people are morning people, right? Your best cognition is in the morning. There's some night owls out there, just split the day, but it's like for most people, get out. I get out in the morning. I want to get into flow state. That first couple of hours, if you can get into flow state in that first couple of hours, because you're primed. If you touch your phone, you've just blown it because you've just potential again. You've got to get up. You prep the night before, and if you can understand how you can access flow states, you can stack the protocols really well. You can enter that zone, and when you're there in flow, you lose track of self, lose track of time, fully immersed in the moment. You're there, you're fully present, and you're firing. Right? In fact, the new book from I'm very blessed to be in the mastermind with Stephen Kotler, and I'm a massive fan of Stephen Kotler's work with Flow and the Flow Research Collective. Him and Diamando's just launched the book We Are as Gods. They talk about this. They're saying the superpower for the now is you need flow state, because that's what AI doesn't have.
Yes.
Right. So if you can access flow state first in the morning for 2 hours, the science shows 500% productivity gains, 300% creativity gains. You can get up, do 2 hours of work. You've won the day. 500. That means you've done a day's worth of work before everyone else is hijacked on their second coffee. That's the reality of the superpower if you choose the state early, right? And then, okay, now what state do I want to be in next? Do I want to be focused? And I think for sales in particular, we need to be able to choose connect.
Yeah.
Be opposite the other person, and people have experienced this, right? You don't want to be sold to. Nobody wants to be sold to. You want to be heard. You want to be listened to. And more important than ever is the human connection. And you cannot connect if you are stressed out of your face, driving high beta and high cortisol. It's neurochemically impossible. So what you want is cortisol. You want to have a bit of oxytocin, serotonin, to truly connect. You know when you're in front of somebody and they're connected with you. You just feel it, right? It's a feeling. And most people, if you've hijacked your day from the moment you started up and you've been on high cortisol all day, you're there and you're talking, but you don't feel that they're there, right?
Yeah.
And I think superpower coming through. I believe the ability to choose the state you're in, and for us as human beings to connect more deeply and be able to access the states we've always had access to, where we've been hijacked.
And in order to do that, Deri, in order to have that connection, is you have to be genuinely interested in the other person. You have to be genuinely curious, curious about business, curious about their circumstances. Just be naturally curious. And as you said, I mean, if you're letting your phone, if you're letting all these other things hijack your day, well, then that natural curiosity is just getting pushed away, getting pushed down by the stress, getting pushed down by the distraction. And yeah, by the time you come to connect or to talk to the other person, if I'm talking to you, but I've all this stuff rattling around in my head, you can feel that. You on the other side, you receive that. You can see that I'm not really connecting with you. I'm not really present.
Yeah, 100%. And the important thing is you feel it. That's exactly what you just said, is you feel it. And can't connect, even if you want to. And by the way, you nailed it, because one of the main triggers for flow states and connecting states is curiosity. You have to have a genuine curiosity. However, you can have a genuine curiosity, but if you're stressed out of your face, driving high beta and cortisol, with even the most curiosity in the world, you ain't accessing connection, right? So the trick is before these meetings, and there's different protocols. I stack a lot of different protocols so people are going to understand. It's like you literally just need to. It's just 90 seconds of breath work. Set down, jump on the. It's literally resetting the system, because you're resetting the neurochemicals. If you understand this brainwaves and neurochemicals, and they ain't going to move by accident, you've got to move them. And a 90-second breath work. So Freedom Founders, the tribes I run, help around the world, right? Every day we start and we just do 2 minutes of box breath in the morning, and it literally entrains the room. It's just, and you can physically, we've watched all this, I've measured all this. You literally see the brainwave pattern drop. The resting heart rate drops. It's like, it's physical, it's neurochemical, it's there, we know, and you feel it. So if you know you need to connect, you need to send to yourself, and it takes 2 minutes, 5 minutes max. Is that important? Now you walk into the boardroom. Now, how many times have you been in a boardroom? Someone comes in, usually the boss, right? And he's stressed, he's on it, and the moment he walks into that room, the entire room is set at high cortisol and stress. Everyone's on the line. Everyone's like, Have you ever been in a room when someone has walked in and is just calm, and take a breath together, and then we each thing called entrainment. So what we are talking about is if you can control your state, you
Yeah.
have the ability to bring the entire organization with you. And the entrainment it's contagious. It's your point, John. You feel it, right? And I think that's what we need as human beings right now in this crazy world called AI. We need to feel it.
No, I love what you just said there about the fact that you have the power within you to have your state, you know, translate or transmit to those like around you in the room or whatever. And again, like it goes back to being very intentional, and as you said, choosing your state and being conscious about these things. And the thing is, Deri, what you're outlining here, I mean, it's very scientific and all of that, but it's also very simple too.
It's
But as I used to say with spin selling, as we were talking about earlier, is back in the day, is like just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy.
100%. 100%. And look, this, if you look at what I'm talking about, the ability to connect to another human being, the ability to access flow states, the ability to recover properly, the ability to access peak and all, that's what humans have been gifted with forever. Now, you think about human biology, you know, I don't know what God's about, everyone else can make the choice on that one, right? But there's something amazing that created us, right? That's way beyond my pay grade. And we have been gifted this incredible set of neurochemicals and brainwave patterns. Like, wow, why? That's incredible, right? But we have, and we've had it forever. And do you know what? Rewind 1,000 years, rewind 200 years. You know, we used to be able to get into flow naturally. There was none of this distraction stuff. We were connecting over the campfire beautifully and elegantly with other humans being. This is humans. So it's simple. It was simple because that's what we did. And then industrial revolution, information revolution, and now technical revolution, and now we're hijacked. Oops. Yet we're still running the same brains that we had 100,000. So we've got all this incredible simple ability. We just ballsed it up, right? And the good news is we can get it back. But you need to, and there's a reason I come in with the sciences, because some of this stuff feels a bit woo. It's not, it's science. I've backed it. So, because, you know, I'm talking to leaders, and like leaders like don't want any bullshit, right? So it's like, let's get straight to it. Here's the science. And once you understand, oh yeah, I've got these brainwaves. I hadn't even really thought about that. I hadn't even really thought about the fact that I'm jacked in high beta all of the time and I'm driving cortisol. But when you say it, it's damn obvious, isn't it? Because what do we?
Yeah, no, because Deri, one of the things that I do find fascinating is, as you said, I mean, is there's so much evidence that this is going on, and even like physically, I mean, in your body, and we tend to ignore that, or you know, as I grew up professionally, really in corporate America, I mean, throughout the 7 years I've been here. We've always celebrated stress. We've always celebrated pressure. Always celebrated the person first in, last out. You know, blah blah, and we've promoted all of these things that kind of run contrary to what you're saying there. If you're in that state all the time, you can't be in the state you're talking about.
Yeah, there's an interesting. I came through corporate as well in the early days. Now, but rewind. So I came through in the late 90s, early 2000s. We weren't hijacked by these things at that point. Now, they were big things that stuck in our pocket, and we kind of had these big things in the car and stuff, right? But we weren't hijacked 24/7. Social media wasn't around at that point. You know, for the kids listening to the call, we used to make phone calls out of these things. That's what we used to do, right? And that was amazing. But we didn't. So we were brought up in that world, which actually gave us a lot more connectivity, a lot more space. A lot of the states were still very accessible. Now, were we stressed and were we pushing boundaries? We were, but we were not massively hijacked on dopamine like we are here, right? There's a big difference within that. Now, the good news is it's not about, is it about getting in early and leaving? Yeah, actually, if you love what you do and you're on purpose and you understand states, you want stress. Stress is good. Being a lazy person is not. It's boredom is a very big problem and a slippery slope to doom and depression. So you want, and in flow state, by the way, it's a trick, and Csikszentmihalyi coined this a long time ago. It's called the challenge skills ratio. You should be, if you're not consistently challenging yourself and you're not increasingly improving your skill, you'll drop out of flow into boredom. So stretch and growth and all the stuff we were taught that. It was constantly growing and learning and developing everything else. That's good. It's healthy. Healthy stress is healthy. When the stress has gone too high and you've jacked it right up, and then AI's overwhelmed you in the world, that's when we're in chronic problems, right? Which is where I think the world's swung two ways at the moment. You're either in boredom or you're in chronic stress, and then there's nothing in the middle. What we want to seek is the Goldilocks strategy, which is in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And that's good. And I don't feel like I worked hard in corporate world back in the day when we got. I enjoyed it. I loved it, and I wasn't massively. My brain was not hijacked. It was starting, but it was only kind of late 2000s, 2010 when social was the beginning of the problem.
Yeah. And now we have burnout is real now, and it's funny. It's like burnout used to be people have been around a long time, whatever. But we're seeing burnout now on people who in jobs like their first job, and like they've only been in it 6 months and already burnt out. But this burnout just seems to be, and as you're right, because we've been hijacked. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of different expectations, different configurations of work now. So it can be quite a confusing time.
I'm going to challenge burnout because I think this is a big one, right? And so burnout, is it real? Absolutely. But let's go to the science and let's understand what burnout truly is. And anybody that is concerned that they're burnt out or their friends burnt out, go and research Maslach. So it's Maslach's burnout inventory. So that's who learned the word. They actually coined the term burnout 30 years ago. So that's the original science. Now, people today are like, I'm burnt out. Are you really? Hang on a minute, right? Because people think work too hard, that's burnout. That's balls. Because if you love what you do, I'm guessing you love what you do, John, right? So just you knowing what you guys are doing, it's exciting. So you work really hard, and guess what? You're probably not burnt out. You love what you do. You're passionate about what you do, and you drive. So now, can you push it too far? You can, but actually, stress is good as long as we contain it. So work alone is not burnout. You don't see Elon Musk burning out, right? And he's a machine. I think it's too far, to be honest with you, but that's another story. Right? I don't agree with that hustle vibe, but I do think working is good if you love what you do. So then the Maslach's inventory says burnout is not just work ethic. It's about values misalignment, feeling reward and recognition. There's a whole stack of what burnout truly is. And people have just ignored the bottom 5 and just gone, oh, it's workload. Not true. It's not scientifically evidenced. So what we're finding is the reason there's a lot of burnout, massive values misalignment in organization, misculture fits. And this is everyone's claiming, it's bullying this, and there's a whole lot of that in the world, which we've got to eradicate in business world. But it comes back to there's a much bigger stack to burnout. So if you're in a company, you love what you do, you're on purpose, you feel respected, you feel like you're treated well, you're learning and growing, and you're not burnt out. Beyond the I'm burnt out, oh, it's because I'm working too hard. There's something way deeper going on there. And if we understand that, we can fix it, by the way. 6% of corporate America are disengaged in their work. That statistic's been around for 30 years and just keeps getting bigger, by the way, from Gallup. And that means burnout. If you're disengaged, you're not interested, you're not my values aligned, that's got burnout written all over it, no matter how hard or not hard you work. So it's important people go back to the original science of burnout and understand what it actually is, because there's a power in there. Because if you think you're going to just take a holiday, come back, hey, it's not. If you haven't fixed values, you haven't fixed rewards, you don't feel respected in the meritocracy, you don't feel safe, no lower workload's going to help you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Coming back from your vacation and feeling just that, within 2 days being back in the same place again, he's telling you that, it's not just overload.
Exactly right. So sorry, you use the B word because the work I'm doing on the stages, burnout is coming out all of the time. Good news is if we understand it for the first time, because I don't think people understand it, right? If we understand, look at Maslach's, look at it and go, oh yeah, it's because I don't feel valued, I don't feel safe, I don't feel, it's like, don't fix those things, nothing's going to help you. So understand it. I think we can do a massive dent in curing that epidemic of burnout if we understand the originality of where it came from.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fantastic point for people, because it is one of those words that's now become a great buzzword, burnout. We had authenticity for a few years. Now we're moving on from that one, where we just keep switching these out. And again, another thing that people don't understand fully. And just finally, What would be the one thing you would say to somebody today? Say to maybe a salesperson out there, maybe it's midway through the year, they're feeling like disconnected, stressed out, all of that. What's the one thing you would say to them?
If you're feeling, anybody out there, salesperson, human,
Mhm,
right? If
mhm.
you're feeling disconnected, you're just feeling like, go to purpose. It's when we underpinned everything. So do we need to understand the brainwave patterns, the neurochemistry, the psychology, physiology? Absolutely. But purpose rules the show.
Yeah.
Without purpose, nothing matters. We are alignment beings. As humanity, we've always sought purpose. We've always sought the light. We've always kind of gone towards the horizon. That's how we are pre-programmed. And most people, purpose is what's missing in their lives. So the question is why, right? So why, if you're miserable in your job, why? Go find another one. If you're
Mhm.
not happy, you can't sell. Are you selling the right thing? Do you believe in the product? Right. So it's back to purpose always. Now, a lot of people, there's lots of work around that. We do work on purpose. Google me. I'm constantly putting purpose series out there. What are the 5 elements of purpose for business? Because if we can get the purpose right, everything else will fire. But if you get everything else lined up and you don't have purpose, good luck, because you're going to still remain flat, which is the
Mm.
problem. It's that it's that emptiness. It's the and the salespeople, if you're sitting there and you're smashing your targets, but you just feel nothing,
Yeah.
that's a true sign of purpose misalignment. So I'm glad you asked that question then, because that's what I usually begin with, which is purpose is always the beginning point of everything. And don't think it's a blinding light that's going to come down and you're going to get inspired. And a lot of people they want one thing in life. No, purpose can be really quite beautiful and elegant and simple. To your point earlier, John, don't overcomplicate it, but it needs to be a bigger why of why they exist. If it's the why, I met a guy that was selling this thing that I didn't agree with, right? So I'm very aligned, I'm very values
Mm.
aligned, and I'm not going to work with companies and boards that aren't. And it's not like I won't work with guns and drugs and shit like that. But
Yeah.
this one, I was like, I just don't get it. It's not really it's all right, but it's not solving the world, so I'm not leaning in. And I'd gone through all the right questions to see if I was going to engage on the board and stuff. And I said, no, I don't think this is right. And I said, I just can't see the purpose behind this in a deep enough way to excite me. And he turned around, he said, you never asked me what my personal purpose was. I was asking his business purpose. He was the founder of the company. He said, I have my son who's highly disabled, and he needs full care for the rest of his life, and I want to provide money for him to make sure my boy is looked after. And I was like, poof, I'm in. Whatever you just said, I'm now in again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And it's changed the full pattern. Because yes, he was running a business, and yes, he was making money, and I wasn't a fan of his, but I knew what drove him now. His
Mm.
disabled son drove him. Now he's got my heart.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Uh,
That's the thing. Everyone just find that something, whatever it may be. And it might be a little acorn to start with, and then let's seed that and make it good.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic, because I think what you outlined there is the fact, as you said, is when a lot of people hear find your purpose, they start going, "Ooh, better come up with something grandiose." But you may have it right there. It may be just like you said. It may be you just want to take good care. You want to give your family the best life that they can have. You want to set your kids up. You want to feel confident about their future and stuff. I mean, that's fantastic purpose. It's not, and that's something, as you said, quite simple to access and understand.
So start
Yeah.
simple. It may get grandiose over time as you get used to it. And it's like a muscle purpose. It needs to be worked a little bit, right? So just find something you believe in. Start with, and a lot of people, where do we begin with purpose? Start with what you said earlier, John. Start with curiosity. Something you're
Yeah.
genuinely curious about, something you're intrigued by, something in the world that you think you can help solve. Start there, work it from there. And purpose evolves. It can evolve quite magnificently if you keep focused on it.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much, Deri. All of Deri's information will be below this video. But before we go, please do remind people a little bit about what you do.
So I sit on the boards around companies around the world, which I'll always do. I run a global tribe called Freedom Founders. So it's for the 1 to 20 million scale companies. We're coming all over the world right now. We're in Los Angeles and San Francisco, Austin, Texas, New York's coming, London, Dubai, Singapore. So we create deep trusted tribes of founders built around this state thing. You want trust is a state, and it's a deep one. So we've built those tribes. Ultra states is what I've created around that to give accessibility to everything I've learned in the last 30 years. So on the Ultra States website right now, you can get full access to the book. When you listen to this, I don't know, it might not be there, but the book will be there somewhere. But right now, fully accessible. There's scorecards on that as well to actually see what states can you access. So you can literally test it. We've got a full masterclass there to explain the whole methodology. So this is my kind of, after 30 years of my work, it's time to leave the legacy back, and the science is now there to back it, which is we're living in an incredible time and a slightly overwhelming time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, fantastic. Thanks again, Deri. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.